Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We are going to start the meat and potatoes, if you will, of 8.0 Cumulus security. Let's take a look at models, redundancy, and key providers. All right, so as we talk about, cloud fundamentals, first thing we'll talk about is models and then redundancy, as I said. So, we're going to take a look at cloud structure models. There are different types of models that businesses can engage depending on their need for cloud services, okay? Both from a structure and from a service, and both are important on the ISC2 certification. Primarily, by the way, the ones that I saw a lot of were service models, those being SaaS, IaaS, PaaS, as we'll discuss. Also, we'll take a look at data centers and redundancy, and then, key cloud service providers. Who can we buy cloud from? So, when we talk about cloud computing, the models are essentially frameworks that define how cloud services are deployed, how they're managed, and how they are accessed, okay? So, they cater to different organizations' needs. Thus, an organization doesn't have to purchase, doesn't have to pay for levels of things that they don't need, okay? And this ranges, of course, from public access to, private access environments, all the way down to consumers. We've discussed, having, Google Cloud, for backing up pictures, videos, data, whatever, from, say, my personal phone, okay? My personal smartphone. So the first cloud that we'll look at, the first cloud model, is public cloud. Its infrastructure, is provisioned for open use by the general public. It's managed by a third party. Providers are AWS and Azure and Google Cloud. They offer a wide range of computing resources, accessible over the internet. So again, these can be a lot of things. If we think about Google Cloud, even as a free user of Google, you're utilizing cloud. Your Gmail is in the cloud, right? All your emails are in the cloud. You can access it from your computer. You can access it from Windows via Chrome, Linux, via Chrome, your smartphone. And then there's the pictures that you take. There's the files that you may create within Google Workspace that are all available on the cloud. And the other thing, by the way, one of the keys that the cloud really offered was our ability to interact with people across the world, right? Without cloud, we don't have remote work, if you think about it, okay? Well, I shouldn't really say that. We could have VPNs, but so much is stored in the cloud, right? Where is GitHub? Is it in the cloud? Those kind of things, right? Primary appeal is definitely scalability. There's that minimal upfront investment. So, we're not investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a server infrastructure, in backup, in redundancy at our business location. So, this made cloud available to startup companies and people who could start up companies rather affordably because they didn't have this computing expense, okay? Private cloud, well, it's a private cloud cloud computing platform implemented within the corporate firewall. So it's managed by an organization's IT department typically. So this would be the idea of cloud within an organization, within a local area network. Now, it could expand outside the network, and thus, these cloud services are placed in their demilitarized DMZ. I can never say that. I'll just say DMZ, right, for access, but it's still within the corporate infrastructure, as you will. And there are examples of OpenStack or VMware Cloud that are used to create these sort of cloud implementations, if you will, okay? They are ideal for business requiring enhanced security or meeting specific regulatory requirements because, again, they have more control, okay? This isn't an AWS implementation, if you will. This is a corporate implementation, so we can do more to secure it. Perhaps we have data that's not allowed on a public cloud, and we have to secure it, but we still want the benefits of cloud computing, okay? Highly customizable here because, again, we manage everything. So there is a cost here, Okay, we have to manage the hardware and the software within this private cloud. Finally, there's hybrid cloud, which is simply a combination of public and private cloud. It enables data and applications to be shared and stored across public, private, and on-prem. So we see this a lot. A great example would be COCC having an email server. The community college that I work at, COCC has an email server locally. And remember, this becomes important because if access is lost to the internet, or worse, lost to the cloud services completely, let's say there's a DOS attack that takes over cloud for hours at all of the redundant locations that we'll talk about, there's still the ability to send and receive email from non-affected local area networks, if you will. Okay. So, examples Microsoft Azure Stack does, Google Anthos does, do some hybrid cloud. Microsoft really does as it pertains to the Microsoft productivity suites that are integrated into cloud. Finally, there is community cloud, and a community cloud is a cloud infrastructure provisioned for exclusive use by specific community of customers. So one great example of this is government implementation of cloud, where all of the government agencies, instead of having to manage their own cloud, secure their own cloud, have different clouds, if you will, for their specific services, maybe in Department of Human Resources, Department of Motor Vehicles, Department of Taxation, whatever the case may be, Department of Land. Suddenly there are redundant data centers that are being secured one time, but used by these different organizations, say at the state or the federal level. So that would be community. And of course, we could have community cloud within industry communities that were willing to cooperate as well. So, don't think it's just governments, if you will. So that takes us to cloud service models. So what we looked at before were structures for cloud. Now we're going to look at service models, and service models vary as well. So, as we can see here, three main service models that we'll take a look at. The first is infrastructure as a service, so IaaS. Provides core computing, storage, network hardware, and software that form the foundation for an organization's build and deploy applications. So now, not only build and deploy, but maybe the service provider itself has some applications that are available to the client. Okay. So in this case, the cloud provider hosts the infrastructure components traditionally, in an on-prem data center, right? Including servers, storage, all the things we need for a local area network that we also need for cloud. Okay, we rent space. So this would be like, renting space out at Azure, where you're going to prop up a virtual machine that might be an email server. You're going to prop up a file server and keep your files there. You might even bring over an ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning System, for example. Another option would be we'll get away from the hardware, okay, and go to platform as a service. So offers a web authoring or application development environment where developers can build, test, and deploy applications directly to the cloud. So an example of this would be, say, a web-based let's use GoDaddy, for example, right? Everybody wants to build a GoDaddy website. Well, they don't have the experience. They don't need the capital of their own web server. They don't have the ability to secure their website, which GoDaddy has the ability to do, right? So consequently, we might, pay a monthly fee to have a user interface that helps us easily build, a lot of times without writing HTML code, easily build a website that represents our business. Okay. So, in this are, APIs, operating systems, the databases, any middleware that's needed, so that we can have our website presented on a smartphone, presented in Chrome, presented in Edge, and have a consistent experience for our customers. Software as a service, so SaaS, allows cloud customers to use applications hosted on the cloud. You know, again, I gave you the example of Intuit's QuickBooks, which I think is a great example in the fact that, you know, it's a good example because it started out as software you had to load on your computer. Then it expanded to software that you could load on a server so that many users could access it at the same time and, you know, do financial accounting all at the same time. And then, of course, it gets moved to the cloud and it's offered as software as a service. Now we pay a monthly fee and we manage all of our financial information for our business via the cloud. So consequently, with this one, it allows cloud customers to use applications hosted on the cloud provider's infrastructure. A lot of examples there, a lot of benefits to all of these cloud as well. We're not having to keep the hardware updated. We're not having to update the software. In the case of QuickBooks, QuickBooks gets updated. If there's a new version, we get that version. Okay, we get patches, we get hot fixes, we get service packs all installed for us. That takes away all of that burden, if you will, on us. And now with cloud computing, we can do what we do best, which is whatever our company does, and leave all of that technical stuff to the cloud. Now, this, by the way, does not mean that we're doing away with cybersecurity engineers or that we're doing away with IT folks. You know, there's still folks that need to be able to program. There's still folks that need to be able to manage these things within the cloud and understand networking. There's still going to be a local network. If anything, there's more demand for higher skilled IT professionals who understand local area network, understand cloud, understand software as a service, platform as a service, you know, and what is involved in all of them as it pertains to utilizing computing resources for our business. Managed service providers. So now we're off of models a little bit, okay? And we're talking about those that provide. So managed service providers offer various outsourced IT services, including, you know, managing and monitoring cloud infrastructure services. So again, we can outsource, if you will, the security to a managed service provider who will do security, do cybersecurity practices for our business. And this could be locally, it could be remote, it could be within our cloud. You know, there was an example here of a company called Red Hawk Security that basically managed cybersecurity. They'd come in, they'd do audits on your local premises. You know, are you secure locally? What data do you have locally? What servers do you have? Are those secure? If you've got cloud implementations, looking at those and seeing what the security factor is of those as well. For some reason, folks, I cannot talk today, so I apologize if I'm kind of blah, 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 blah. But we got to keep going. We got to get these videos done. So, you know, key features, you know, provide ongoing support, maintenance, and administrative. Again, we can outsource more of that. Always good to have one IT person in charge of all of this, in charge of your local network. And I don't mean necessarily by in charge as in maintaining and doing all the work on, but having a single person that knows the entire IT infrastructure, that understands your company's mission, that understands your values, that understands how computing should be used within your business to benefit your business, and definitely understand who's in charge of what, right? Where is this service? Oh, that's over here. Where's this? It's over here. Where's that? Oh, it's local. Where's this? It's across the street. That's really important to have that complete overlook, that overview of your IT resources. So service level agreements, very, very important. You know, unlike your personal auto policy or your personal home policy that you may have never read, and as a former insurance agent, I can tell you only about 5% of people actually read their policy until there's an incident, and then it's not covered because they didn't have that coverage within their insurance policy that they thought they had. Okay? In this case, it's more important to have service level agreements for each party to understand what is the customer responsible for, what is the provider responsible for? And clearly, the provider is not responsible if you allow users to use cheesy passwords and their email gets hacked. They're not responsible for that, obviously, right? But you need to really understand who is responsible for what. So if there is some sort of failure, are you responsible to fix it, or is the provider responsible? So again, these are formal agreements between cloud service providers and customers that define the expected service performance levels, including uptime, response time, and support. So even with your ISP, and I use an example from the other day where our local ISP, TDS, they have an uptime that they did not meet for a lot of customers due to a fire that took out some equipment that kept people's internet down for days, multiple days. And normally you hear about this 99.99% uptime, right? Well, is that uptime for the week? Is that uptime for the month? Is that uptime for a year? Is that uptime from the day you signed up? Those are things to know if you have a claim against the provider as it pertains to uptime. So just a quick example there. So that's it for that part. In part 3, we are going to continue on the second half of Cloud Fundamentals, Models, Redundancy, and Key Providers. See you then.